Welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset. So over the development of this channel, I've outlined my thesis for why I think Pulsechain will be the #1 blockchain. And so what I'm going to be showing you today is obviously if it's going to be the #1, it has to flip Solana. And I believe that it can. So I'm not the math guy who'll show you all the exact math and all the exact numbers, but you should be able to get an understanding of the math based purely on the progression of the blockchain and through the evidence that I'm about to present. Mostly is through the Atropa ecosystem, but this also applies to all of the interlinked communities that have emerged out of the consciousness of Pulsechain. So this whole idea of liquidity webs, this whole idea of Hart's law, which is unique to Pulsechain. It is something that is a testament to Pulsechain alone, and it's spread through all of the different communities on Pulsechain, from PTGC, the X Army, Tangang, I'm sure there's others which I can't think of off the top of my head, but they're everywhere, all over Pulsechain. So Moon King was the very first one to make this call that Pulsechain flips Solana. So all credit goes to Moon King, and I've learned not to fade him. So basically, I have really been thinking about this more and more, and I only continue to get more and more bullish as I'm seeing this blockchain develop over time. So I also want to share with you why HEX is still the GOAT, and to not forget about the world's largest free airdrop, which represents a huge piece of this puzzle. So with that, let's start with these couple of tweets. So this tweet here, basically credit to one of my best friends. Hey, Almighty. So the X Army, baby X. So yeah, if anyone digs Almighty's ecosystem, Almighty's just basically been he's always cooking. So he's created another token, baby X, and X Army is just something that I've just started looking into with HotX, and obviously HotX was integral with PTGC. So these two guys together, good things are definitely going to happen. So these are the types of ecosystems that I'm seeing across Pulsechain. So this tweet goes, all credit goes to HEX Homes. So I couldn't be more bullish on Pulsechain. There's two catalysts which we have a go ahead for, and two which we're waiting on. So this is in addition to all the other things that I've mentioned. I'm not going to go through every single thing today, but first of all, the scam Federal Reserve has cut rates. That's one. Trump is in on the 20th, so 3-day countdown. Pending is partial dismissal or the full dismissal for HEX, PulseX, Pulsechain, and Richard Heart, and ETH uptrending against BTC in the ratio. So if we start to see, I mean, obviously, once we see this, then the floodgates, in my opinion, will open. Basically, big money, whale money, which doesn't want to take the risk in something that has SEC case against it, like we've seen with XRP. The floodgates will open. So that's a big tick right there. And then ETH trending up against BTC. So this all means opportunity. So this is setting the scene. So the next tweet that I want to share is this marketing strategy. So we've been seeing Decentralized Me. Basically, the marketing strategy, they've put up 110K over a 6-month period, which is going to be $18,333 a month on marketing Pulsechain. So this is going to go towards things like just getting positive momentum, positive marketing across social media. So allocating to possibly influencers, media, social, PR, platforms and channels that they focus on. So they're getting Decentralized Me is going to communicate with 8 different marketing agencies and going to get them to produce 2 different strategies. And then they'll end up choosing amongst the team. I think there was even mention of doing a vote. And yeah, 18,333 a month is huge. So the final thing that I wanted to share with this, so basically the whole objective is to increase the number of investors and users of the chain. So the number of development teams or senior leaders of existing copies to begin marketing their projects on Pulsechain. Positive public perceptions of the founder, Richard Heart. So yeah, content marketing on social media platforms, public relations for the founder, Richard Heart. So all responses will be submitted by the 22nd of January. So there's a big catalyst, lots of catalysts coming up in relation to all of this. So I don't know. When I saw this, of course, I was a bit skeptical, but seeing what Decentralized Me is actually doing, the team is actually doing, I'm just getting more and more bullish. 110K is not a small amount of money. Nearly 20K a month is not a small amount of money. That is a lot of word that goes out. And now is really the time in the bull market. And there was nothing like this for HEX, and HEX still grew massively. So if we can really start to get some positive spin happening for Pulsechain and Richard Hart, it's only going to contribute towards people coming to the chain. You have people like Shill Gates, for example, who just didn't even know anything. He sort of knew about it in the background, but never really knew much about it. And then finally, from Hexologists just continuously peppering him, he opened his mind up to it and he explored. And now he's come into it and he's like, holy crap, this is like the most amazing community ever. So it's not going to take much. Also, I think one of the final pieces of the puzzle, which I haven't put it in a tweet here, but the final piece of the puzzle in that is that Pulsechain runs last, which is why for me all these low prices is really of no cause of concern in my opinion. So good morning, BP Crypto, El Juice. What's going on, man? Hex PLS, Baby X. So there's Almighty's little baby, Baby X. Feel free to put the contract address in the chat as well, Almighty. Hex is the GOAT, definitely. What's going on for Tina? And I love the marketing effort, but I do still feel getting into Pulsechain is very difficult to a normal person. Puffy, I would agree. I would actually honestly agree, because even today, in yesterday's stream, someone was mentioning something about X and a meme coin on X, and just immediately there's resistance in my mind. So if there is some way that it can be, I mean, if the marketing strategy is simplified in a way, like, you know, if you go to Coinbase, you'll see like Coinbase come up and click this button to go to the Coinbase website. If it simplifies in a way where it takes you directly to some kind of bridge or some kind of like 0x Coast where it's like a direct onboarding methodology, I think maybe this is something that we can really look out for. So Earthling, yes, I will get to HotX towards the end. So the first part is going to be about Pulsechain, flipping Solana. Second part is HEX. And then the third part is going to be the world's largest free airdrop. So we're waiting for anything Fitness Pro. We're going to wait for more bullish signs. So, okay. So now this is really something that just kind of, I want, to be perfectly honest, in my mind, it was just like, hey, we're going to flip Solana. And I just believed it. I didn't know how, but now from the start of this channel, I've been investigating the Atropa ecosystem and how Atropa pumps Pulsechain. Now, also PDI is very integral to that. Somi has shown, as well as many other content creators have shown, how it's pretty much the spear. So that gets pumped with all this. It's got the biggest narrative on Pulsechain. That gets really, really pumped, and then it pumps the rest of the blockchain. So what I believe here, so I'm just going to go over this tweet. So it's actually extremely simple. Once I actually I was in the flow and I just started writing it out. So obviously, have you heard of Atropa? And have you heard the fact that it's an ecosystem? So everybody still looks at individual tokens, but we got to look at this as a totality. So most of it is all imaginary made-up liquidity, and with imaginary made-up liquidity comes imaginary made-up volume through arbitrage. So yes, obviously when Maria first created Atropa and bought 5 billion PDI and then split the Atropa in half, and 50% went into, I think 50% of the supply went to PDI, and then he burnt that supply or whatever. It was a huge chunk of the supply. Instantly, whatever the value of PDI was, 5 billion PDI tokens, let's just say it was, I don't know, 50,000. Then he creates this token out of thin air, Atropa, and then bonds it in liquidity. So then all of a sudden you've got $100,000 in liquidity, because you've got 50,000 here and then 50,000 of Atropa, which is just made up out of thin air. And then so you replicate this across the entire Atropa ecosystem, then that's why this chain has a lot of TVL. So that's really something to keep in mind. So what makes it different to Solana is volume only flows in and out of one meme coin and whatever other meme coins there are. So this is a really, really key piece of evidence. It has linear mathematics. The mathematics on Pulsechain is completely different. It's completely different. So the Atropa ecosystem, so just like I was saying, that was one token. That was just Atropa. So the Atropa ecosystem has over 300 tokens, and Atropa has nearly 1,000 liquidity pools. So this is the Atropa liquidity pools here, 934 liquidity pools, 303 million in liquidity. PDI has over 1,000 liquidity pools. So I probably wouldn't take this value here where it's 8 billion, 8 point something billion. because something here, this one of these V3 ones, where it's 8, oh, hang on. Sorry, that's 8 trillion. So yeah, people, this is how liquidity can actually get made up. So that's also why some of it is super, super fake. Some of it is at least like, with the Atropa to PETA, it's at least legible because people are swapping between them. But if I just go and make a token now and, if I make a token, let's just say I make a token with like 1 billion supply, and then I have 1 million PETA, and then I bond one of those tokens with 1 million PETA, then whatever the 1 million PETA is worth now, like 10,000 or something like this, or whatever it is, 6,000. And then I've got 6,000 of that plus the other 999,999,999 tokens. So it makes the market cap extremely massive. But then all it's going to take is to just put a few of these tokens, and liquidity just gets out of hand. And it's kind of like where the liquidity can also just get extremely, extremely made up. So therefore, just between these pools and everything that they touch, this is the important part, the Hart's law, everything that they touch, there's probably over 10,000 interconnected liquidity pools. And again, I haven't done the exact math on all of this. I'm just going to go through some examples. So here's 2 examples. And then we've seen Pulsechain get to 5th just when PETA starts pumping, which in turn pumps the shit out of the whole Atropa ecosystem. So do you get it? And again, I wasn't the first to call it. Credit goes to Moon King. I'm just showing you how I believe it's going to be extremely easy. Now that it just came to me, I was like, this is actually remarkably easy for it to flip Solana. So let's just wait and see. So we are team win. So obviously at the moment, TVL, we are ranked 5th on Gecko Terminal. We're ranked 5th. So 723 million on Gecko Terminal. So let's actually have a look at how this can actually continue to grow. So we've got a long way to go, of course, 87 billion. So we've got to do another 100, essentially what? Just over 100x, like 110x. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to get 110x of real liquidity in the ecosystem, because of the way that liquidity works, that you can just keep multiplying liquidity in the same way that Atropa multiplied with PETA, and then all of the different assets within Atropa are multiplying. So it's just this continuously growing ecosystem of like fake liquidity. So this is how it can easily get there. But then once something like PETA starts to pump, so let's just say, I mean, let's actually, you know what? Why not? Let's do that math right now, actually. So what's PETA right now? So PETA is 1.5 cents. So 1.5, what is 100x to... sorry, so we do what? 1.5x. So 1 divided by 0.15. No, so it's 66 point, it's supposed to be 0.15. So 66. So yeah, so 66.66666 multiplied by 723 million. We're obviously still, at this current point in time, we're not going to flip it. We're going to be halfway there. So 48 billion. So let's have a look here. So if I mean, yeah, this is like really basic math, and it could be completely wrong. That could be completely wrong. That's why I'm not really like the math guy. But basically, if we just take the value of everything now, and PETA gets to $1 and it pulls everything up with it, then this could be like 49 billion. But there's all these other ecosystems that are continuously being built out on Pulsechain. Maria is not stopping with the Atropa ecosystem. There's over 300 tokens. So now, if we dig into the Atropa ecosystem, so this is just the Atropa ecosystem alone. So there's over 300 tokens, or nearly 300 tokens in here. So I actually think there's over 300 tokens, because I don't think that this is fully updated. So I think that there's been more since then. So you could probably add another 10 to 20 on top of this. So, okay, then there's things like I said, PTGC, X Army, the Tang Gang, all of these other ecosystems and communities that are all liquidity bonded. So now if we just have a look at a couple of tokens. So again, what did we have here? So we had over nearly 1,000. Well, we have over 1,500 with DAI stablecoin. We have nearly 1,000 with Atropa. And so down has 153 liquidity pools, for example. Teddy Bear has nearly 1,000 liquidity pools. Treasury Bill, which is this whole new branch of the Atropa ecosystem, has 261 liquidity pools. So all of these liquidity pools, they're all touching each other. So they all move up together. So as I've shown continuously with the Atropa ecosystem, PDI pulls up Atropa, which pulls up all of the ecosystem in the way that they're all liquidity bonded with each other. So it's not just like one thing goes up, they all go up in value. That's the thing. So as long as all the economic energy and the narrative goes towards PDI, which is an amazing thing, if PDI can get to $1, all that economic energy that brings in, then all the tokens that it's connected to also will get lifted up in the same amount of value, or in a proportional amount of value. So at the minute, possibly it doesn't. I mean, just based on that very basic math that I showed before, possibly it doesn't. It's going to take a lot more. But then once we get to like 49 billion in TVL, it doesn't mean that there's actually 49 billion that everyone can actually take out of the ecosystem. Same as Solana. There's not $87 billion on there that people can actually take out of the ecosystem. It's all just, a lot of it is just like fluff liquidity as well. Actually, probably Solana is more accurate liquidity than, say, Pulsechains, for example. And to be perfectly honest, that's going to be one of the biggest scrutinizing points against Pulsechain when it does actually happen, because I believe it's going to be one of the biggest scrutinizing points against Pulsechain, because even though Pulsechain is going to flip, it's going to still get all this FUD, and it's like, oh, all this fake liquidity. That's my prediction that's going to happen. That's going to be like the next wave of FUD that hits Pulsechain, of people just not wanting to accept that Richard Hart is the GOAT and he's created the GOAT blockchain. So obviously that math there was, again, it could be completely wrong, but that was just with PDI as well, hitting $1. Now, if PDI hits $1 and pegs to there, then what happens after that? So Decentralized Me has shown videos, and his thesis is PDI gets to $1 before the end of the bull run, and then it makes everything else catapult. So then if you imagine, you get another 10x across a lot of other assets. There's no floor for something like Atropa. Atropa keeps pumping, which therefore keeps pumping all of the Atropa ecosystem. It's not going to take a lot. It's not going to take a lot. It's really only another 2x there to actually flip Solana. So obviously Solana is going to continue to grow as well. So this is really all, obviously it's speculation, but I'm seeing the signs. This is just me. I'm seeing the signs. So again, you look at DAI stablecoin, 1,500. Oh, shit, actually, wow, way more. So, yeah, this is actually... all dexes can buy 1,500, but here it actually says 2,000... yeah, see, the data's a little bit off with this particular website. But again, you just think of all these tokens that it's connected to that get pulled up with it. So then you have the Dysnomia ecosystem with everybody's Lao tokens that are getting pulled up with all of this. So it's going to be a very interesting game. It's going to be a very tight race, in my opinion. Then what happens if Richard Hart starts using the sacrifice funds or the OA bags or whatever ends up happening there? That can just this, whatever that is, hundreds of millions or billions, that can also really multiply the total value, the TVL, quite a lot. And then also the volume that happens on the chain. So this is the big difference. So the volume on here, when PDI is going up, it's pulling up 1,500 other liquidity pools, which are also pulling up all their interconnected liquidity pools. So the math is completely different. So for example, looking at this one here, so MVRS, so this is one Magaverse. So this is something that the Moon King has been chilling, the Crypto Kings have been chilling this. And yeah, this is like, I mean, this is a hot meme coin on Solana at the moment. I think they donated like $1 million to Trump. Moon King was saying they donated $1 million to Trump for his campaign. So it's done a 540x from the bottom or thereabouts, right? So this is one example. But if you have a look at this, how many liquidity pools is it connected to? So if we have a look at this, MVRS, so they're all Solana. They're all Solana liquidity pools, but they're just liquidity pools on different, maybe on like different yeah, well, this is Radium, this is Meteora, but it's all with just Solana. So in other words, the math is linear. So this pumps, and it's only this that's pumping up, just that. Whereas if PDI pumps, it's pumping up everything else across the whole entire blockchain. That is the GOAT thing there. That's the piece of the puzzle. The math is different. So this is like a linear mathematics. That's why in my thumbnail I showed a scale, and you saw the pulse chain is like a web, and you saw the Solana is just linear, because it's just linear mathematics. Whatever meme coin is pumping, it's only that's going up in TVL. It's only that's going up in volume. This is different because PDI is pumping, and it's connected with 1,500 liquidity pools. The math is different. It's a different kind of mathematics. This is what makes it goated. And then obviously also the dog was pooing, doing a Solana poo. So Tensor, I think I've heard Sonny talk about this a lot. Tensor maths. He's like, once you figure out Tensor, your mind's going to explode. And I don't know if this is maybe what he's getting at, but in mathematics, a tensor is an algebraic object that describes a multilinear relationship between sets of algebraic objects related to a vector space. Tensors may map between different objects such as vectors, scalars, and even other tensors. So maybe that's what this is. So, okay, here's obviously a simple tutorial. I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is what he's talking about. Now, actually, let's look at this dimension of tensors. So if you think of, come on, give me a big picture. If you think of Solana, liquidity is like just this. It goes up and down in just one liquidity pool. But you think of Pulsechain, this is what PDI is. PDI is going up, but it's connected with 1,500 liquidity pools, which are also connected with, you know, just the Atropa is connected with nearly 1,000 liquidity pools. PDI is, so, okay, look. So PDI is connected with 1,500 liquidity pools. So just on those liquidity pools that I've showed, Atropa was what, 930 liquidity pools. So that's another 930 liquidity pools. So PDI goes up, which is connected to Atropa, which is connected to 930 liquidity pools. PDI is also connected to Teddy Bear, which is also connected to another 900 liquidity pools. So there's, yes, 3,330 liquidity pools. Then we also had, I think, Down, which is connected to PDI, and that has 150 liquidity pools. And then there was Treasury Bill, which has 260 liquidity pools. So that's just by looking at 4 tokens. So that's with just 4 tokens connected to PDI, just 4 tokens. That's 3,740 pools that move up. That's 3,740 liquidity pools that arbitrage between each other. That's 3,740 liquidity pools that, through Hart's law, get dragged up. So now, obviously, that was just with 4 tokens within PDI. There was 1,500. So, I mean, a very, very conservative, I mean, a wildly conservative is just 10,000. I'd say it's probably more like 100,000 liquidity pools that all move up. And this is why when PDI is pumping, the whole chain just starts to rocket. So now we're sitting 5th with PDI here. So we're probably very, 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 I mean, we're going to flip BNB. We're going to flip base chain. We're going to be 3rd very soon. And it won't be long before we flip Ethereum. It will not be long before we flip Ethereum, because Ethereum also has this linear mathematics where everything is just one pool, and that coin pumps and then it dumps. The value only goes into one pool. When the value goes into just one token in Pulsechain, it's pumping the whole goddamn system. This is the beauty of Pulsechain. This is the meta. It's a completely different kind of mathematics. So this is why I really do believe that we have a very, very strong chance of flipping Solana. We're at least going to get to 2nd very, very easily, in my opinion. I mean, if we see PDI gets 10 cents, we're going to be sitting at 2nd, in my opinion. We're probably more than likely going to be sitting in 2nd. If we see it get to $1, who knows what's going to happen? Nothing. We're going to be sitting comfortably 2nd. And then if there's, I mean, for me, it's like that moment where PDI hits $1, and if it pegs at $1 and whatever happens, it pegs at $1, MakerDAO gets turned on or whatever happens there. There's by the way, there's all these new things that are emerging with like people were doing. There was like some bots that were just getting tested or deployed or something like this, which are basically bots that were to do with like if the collateral falls too low, then it will like drain that vault. So basically, like there's people actually working on this stuff. So I think there's a high probability that the maker DAO gets switched on and PDAI can peg. That's just my speculation. I can't deny all the evidence that I'm seeing, and that's what I want. That's what I'm hoping. And for me, it's going to represent a rocket ship moment. So when a rocket ship breaks out of orbit, or at least in the past they did this, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they'll have all this fuel that goes up to a certain point, and then that will like pull it away from gravity, and then at that point, then they detach from all those rockets, and then it goes into a secondary propulsion. So that's what I believe. Like, we're going to hit this PDAI moment, and that's going to be like us like lifting off and then breaking out of the atmosphere, going to the moon, quite literally, is going to be where the whole chain just explodes after PDAI hits $1. So that's kind of my speculation, and that's the point where I think that we can flip Solana. So, and if we do, it's like, what a moment. And as that happens as well, don't forget, like, as that happens as well, there's going to be more value that's going to get locked up as well, because there's going to be, we've got the marketing thing that's going to happen. Let's say that brings like, I don't know, 5 to 10% of extra people from around the rest of the other blockchains as we continue to get results. Ivan on Tech keeps talking. Rand Nunes' teddy bear keeps flying. BitBoy Crypto, like the influencers, you can't ignore results. You can't ignore results. You can talk all the shit that you want when things are down, but when things are up, you cannot ignore the results. That's where the big moment for Pulsechain is going to be. So yes, so I'll go through just some of these comments very quickly. Big things are on the horizon for Tina. So for me, this it's an assumption, because we have to see PDAI get to $1. We have to see enough liquidity flow into the system, possibly through this marketing system, for it to get to $1. And so there's a lot of big ifs. So that's really like the critical point. If we can get to that $1, and if we somehow stabilize at that $1, then I think it's an inevitability that we flip Solana. So there's a few big ifs, there's a few assumptions, but just based on it getting to $1, I think it's an inevitability. That's just my opinion. So, hey, Peanut Brain, what's going on, bro? Oh man, thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. Ed Nugent. Thanks for another interesting stream. I'm on my daily walk here in southern France, and you stimulate me every day. Keep them coming. My pleasure, man. My absolute pleasure. Fartcoin will blow Tensor away. So there we go. April's white. So we got Fartcoin. And hey, I'm an agnostic. I'm a Pulsechain maxi. This doesn't mean PLS ticker. I'm a Pulsechain maxi, which means I want to see everything on this blockchain win. And if you want your coin to succeed, so if you want Fartcoin to succeed, start taking note of what HotX has been doing, what the Atropa dev has been doing, what Almighty has been doing, what Sunny has been doing with his ecosystem. Start paying attention. If you just have Fart with Pulsechain, it's like there's nothing going for it. But if you have Fartcoin bonded with tons of different tokens, yeah, get it connected to the Tensor. So PDAI, that's it, my boy Almighty. Better math, pool numbers grow. We will win. Many will see those numbers black and white. BP Crypto, exactly. You cannot ignore results. So if you guys are enjoying this, please do me a favor, hit the like, share it out on Twitter, on YouTube, whatever. I would really appreciate that. Appreciate the comments. That's always good. Hey, Don Bryant, good any time of the day. It's evening here in Bangkok. Thanks, Don Bryant. I appreciate that. So, all right, let's get on to the second part now. So that's my thesis. My thesis continues to expand about why Pulsechain equals number one. Now, on to the second part. So HEX. HEX is the GOAT. So what is going on here with HEX? So I showed this on a stream the other day, but we're really seeing some kind of concerted effort of PHEX, so Pulsechain HEX, and PDAI. So this is PDAI at 1-to-1. So this is really quite phenomenal. We've seen it gravitate towards this 1-to-1 mark several times. So it's the fourth time. So fourth time lucky. So now we're on fourth time lucky. Now my computer's going to start to fourth time lucky. So 1-to-1. This is 1-to-1. So it's gravitating around 1-to-1. So look at all the volume of market makers that are trying to make this happen. And Frodo, sorry, Frodo, if you listen to this, it was Frodo something. I remember the picture and everything, but I don't remember all the names all the time. I'm sorry, but he made a comment where he's like, maybe, well, he believes that basically by the end of this bull market, okay, let's say, I mean, think of this. If this stays at 1-to-1, due to the amount of liquidity that it's bonded with, I mean, 70K in liquidity, it's not a huge amount, but there's obviously some kind of concerted effort to keep it there. Why not? Why couldn't the origin address, people are only talking about like the origin address collateralizing the maker vaults. What about if the origin address, or, I mean, I think the origin address has a ton of PDI maybe as well. I don't know, but let's just say also the origin address uses a shitload of HEX and PDI to like really fatten up the liquidity so that $1 for HEX ends up being an eternal floor. I mean, if it's 1-to-1 now and PDI gets to $1, then it's only just, HEX is only just going to go upside from there. That's really the beautiful thing. So obviously this is going to be, what is this? So this is by the 3 days. So let's theorize. So I don't know where you guys sit. Actually, you know what? To be honest, it's probably going to be more like this for a while as the strength of DAI happens. I mean, I'd be keeping an eye on this for some swaps as well. And then maybe, it'll touch it a few times. Who knows? Maybe it sticks around. Maybe it doesn't do this. And then, yeah, who knows? Whatever the end of the bull market is going to be, then it's going to be something more like this. This is kind of the thing that I see. And then eventually, obviously, at the very end of the bull market, when everything dumps and sells, then it's going to come back down here and perhaps stabilize at 1-to-1. That would be so effing awesome as a use case for HEX. And so this is PHEX. So the 1-to-1, you can really see this concerted effort here. For me, this is some sort of an inevitability. But don't forget about EHEX. I think anyone who's fading EHEX is making a huge mistake. So obviously 1-to-1 is the real key here. So I've shown several times. So I'm going to show one more time. HotX. So HotX is the Atropa version of HEX, you could say, or basically it's Maria's way of trying to contribute to bringing the peg of EHEX to PHEX, the way that I see it, or giving like a use case of EHEX in a staking way on Pulsechain. So how does this actually happen? So just using some basic math. So let's say we have 5.2 million EHEX. If I had 1 million HEX, so I did the math here. If I had hang on a minute. If I had 1 million HEX, that's right. Yeah, if I had 1 million HEX, I would get 5.2 million EHEX. Therefore, so let's ignore this 7.9 million HEX for now, because this is also how you can grow your PHEX. So now, I mean, wow, look at this already. So let's say I swapped that 5.2. So this is when I first did that maths. Let's say we first swapped that 5.2 million EHEX to HotX, you would get 464 HotX. And so as the price of HotX continues to rise, so I just did it as a 50x, but I tell you what, 50x is like almost looking too conservative. Look at this. Look at this from there. You know what? Let's get a little crazy. And let's make this, I mean, gee whiz, because it was a 1-1-1, let's make it a 2-2. Let's just go 2-2-2-2-2. 2-2-2, 22,222. And let's make this, for the culture, right? So if we did that swap here, what is that giving us? That's giving us a double, I think. So it's giving us, it's 100%. So therefore, here, your 464 HotX, you could swap back into EHEX. So if it continues to rise as it is, which in my opinion, it looks very bullish. I mean, there's 1,200 wallet holders for this token, which is amazing. So if it continues to rise, let's say it gets here by the end of the bull market, then your 464 HotX will be double. It will be double when you swap it back into EHEX, because HotX now, the price of HotX is doubled against EHEX, which means when you swap the HotX back into EHEX, you'll have, so let's take this, you will have double this 5,200. So who was asking the question about the HotX earlier? So Earthling, does this make sense now? I don't know if you're still here in the chat, if you're watching still, Earthling, but does the math make sense now about how the ratios work? So therefore, your 464, if that doubles, you're going to have 10,590,000 EHEX. I hope that makes sense. So therefore, this is why it's even amazing for, this is why, again, I don't know, this seems like, Maria, as an OG Hexagon, has spoken about wanting to pump the shit out of EHEX with, I think he's got like 20 million or 200 million PUSDT. So if the P stables form some kind of stability with each other, so PDI gets to $1, this has been my hypothesis, PDI gets to $1, maker contract gets turned on, then maybe Pulsechain will end up having some sort of P stability mechanism in the same way that there's already a P stability mechanism, in the way that there's already an E-stables mechanism with the stable LP, where you put 3 of the stable coins, so USDC, USDT, and DAI, you put them, whichever one you want to put in there, then it will generate liquidity for that, because it's basically like helping maintain they're already pegged, but it's helping maintain them in like a 3-way, it's putting all those 3 tokens together within an arbitrage equilibrium. So now, if PDI gets to $1, then PUSDC and PUSDT, putting into some kind of mechanism like that, can also maintain a stable peg between them. So if just PMaker keeps the peg and then that branches out to those keeping the peg, it's like there's all these things that are working together to maintain a peg. This is why for me it's like, okay, it makes more and more sense as I look and dig, and it's all speculation, right? There's no, like, even the stable LP, I don't know if there's going to be a P stable LP. So I did do a YouTube series when I first saw the stable LP. I was like, holy shit, this is what can happen with like the holy trinity of the P stables. They could do the same thing. So therefore, where I was going with that is, Maria, as an OG Hexagon, has like, I think it was 200 million PUSDT, or like some obscene amount of PUSDT, and he's basically going to just pump the shit out of EHEX with it. So he wants to see parity. He's contributing to helping parity. The rise of HotX is helping contribute to the parity narrative. It seems to be moving up with it, because obviously, as people buy into HotX is also dragging up the value of Ethereum, which is dragging up the value of the Ethereum hex to PHEX. So this is just another little thing that could be used. But I think the real beauty with this is, the reason why I don't want to be, where did it go? There we go. So the 10 million. So therefore, if we have this 10.5 million here, and if you still love Pulsechain Hex, you could end up swapping it back here for 1-to-1. But why would you? For me, why wouldn't you, I suppose? Then you can do short-term stakes. But for me, this is like Maria's design for a short-term staking mechanism for EHEX. The way that the liquidity is designed, the way that the liquidity pools are designed, there's 1.6 million in liquidity, so it's meant to not move fast. If there was a tiny bit of liquidity in there, then it would move really, really fast. So if I had 5.2 million EHEX and I put it in here, then there's only like, maybe 100,000 liquidity, that's going to move up very fast. And then other people coming into it, the value is going to move up fast. But I believe that he's designed it in this way to give EHEX a use case for staking on Pulsechain. Whether it replaces I don't think it's going to replace long-term staking on Ethereum HEX, though. I think there's always going to be a use case for long-term staking on Ethereum HEX because you can't beat T-shares. And as less and less people stake on EHEX and bring their EHEX over to Pulsechain and then buy into HotX as like their version of staking. I mean, look, basically, in this amount of time, you can consider this. If you swapped, you've basically done 7 to 18% on your EHEX. So if you had 5.2 million and 18% on that, it's whatever the math is multiplied by 18%. So you'd end up having an extra 953,000. So you almost got an extra million just from that. So almost an extra million. So it provides a use case that is like it's going to be very, very interesting for the game theory, in my opinion, because as more people see this opportunity, then it's also going to make this continue to rise faster. Because already 1,200 wallets, I was like, holy shit, a lot of people must be really paying attention. And so if already more and more people bridge their EHEX over and start to do this, then obviously the price is going to go up. But as the price goes up, the opportunity disappears. And as the opportunity disappears here, the opportunity on the Ethereum side for your HEX, the opportunity rises because you get more T-shares for your staking. So therefore, I believe that this is going to present a use case for short-term staking, but nothing is going to beat long-term staking on the Ethereum side, because the amount of T-shares that you're going to get on that side is going to completely dwarf the amount of T-shares that you can get for the equivalent amount of staking on the Pulsechain side. So therefore, it's also going to give a value to HEX to help maintain like the one-to-one, because it's like, well, if I'm going to get, just hypothetically, double the T-shares that because everybody's now bridged over into HotX and I can get double the T-shares, then why would I do a long-term stake on Pulsechain HEX when I can do it on Ethereum HEX? And if it's a long-term stake, yeah, I'm going to get wrecked by gas, but the long-term stake is really going to... it just invalidates. It's going to, it's going to depend on the size of your bag, but I just see whales doing long-term stakes on Ethereum HEX. So it's like this genius move from Maria just gives life to Ethereum HEX. It gives it life, and once more and more people start switching onto it, it's like, I don't know. So again, hopefully now Earthling, that makes a bit of sense now with the HotX token. So the only marketing we need is green candles. It's insane that people love to buy green candles. Everyone is asking me how to buy XRP. I told them, don't bother. You're too late in the short term. Yeah, man, Super Charles. It's like this. This is the thing. So this is also going to be the best marketing for Pulsechain as well. So, I mean, like, what is it? 66x to or under 66x to $1 for PDI, and then. Again, what does that do to everything else? Atropa can continue to go. You have all these different new tokens continuously emerging. So, good evening, Don. I was just in Bangkok. I love it there. Nice, nice, nice. Maria, cooking with the EHEX leverage plays. EHEX lick pools will print. I agree. I agree, Mr. Trump on Pulsechain. So here's another whole ecosystem. So Trump on Pulsechain. He's got the Trump token, and he's got a whole liquidity web around his ecosystem as well. So this Hart's Law phenomena, which is the consciousness of Pulsechain, is all across Pulsechain. It's not just the Atropa ecosystem, but in my opinion, I think the Atropa ecosystem does it the best. Or maybe not does it the best, but was at least the first, possibly the first to do it. And I think it's the best. I think it's the best. I think if you look at something like PTGC and price performance, it's a different beast. The web that it's created and the price performance, it's utilizing the concept of liquidity webs in a way with buy and burns to pump the shit out of the token. It's a different beast to the Atropa ecosystem. So yeah, but in any case, everything is just here. So we are so back, are we not? Everything is aligning so perfectly. Jaisu, I completely agree. I don't know. Do you guys agree, chat? I mean, how can you... I mean, the Don vid called it. The Don vid called it. January 12th. like January 12th, was it? And pretty much January 12th was when it broke out. It broke out of the channel, had a pullback, and now it's just broken out. Probably going to have a pullback. Maybe it's going to have a pullback and do a deeper down. I don't really see it with everything that's happening with Trump. I don't really see it coming like all the way down to here. But who knows if it can? Who knows if it will? We really don't know. Maybe I believe we're probably in a bullish uptrend now. I think there's a lot of things that are confirming it. So no worries, Jay. You can always go back and rewatch. I think this is going to be like. I mean, I think this is a. I mean, I'm loving talking about this stuff, and it's like it's bullish dopamine inducing stuff, but it's like backed by a thesis. It's backed by not just speculation and hype, and there's not exact maths, but I believe the math is sound enough to really like, I mean, it makes me excited, put it that way. So what's going on, TS Pedro? All right. Then, of course, now the last piece, the world's largest free airdrop. Don't forget what happened when we had the last rip. So let's go to PDI. I'm always going to use PDI. So when we had the last rip, and just for the record, I was calling 3.3 cents prior to it getting there, based on Fibonacci's, and also based on the fact that I was doing it for the culture, because 3.3 cents is like, I mean, I'm a threes guy. It got there. I also pretty much, yeah, I was calling it on stream on the day. So you can go back to those streams. So anyway, what I wanted to mention here is that when we got to here, all that liquidity then started to spread out across the chain and give life to the PRC20 copies. So now is the time to start looking at your favorite PRC20s. So this is what I want to present to you now. So pick an ecosystem. So for me, one of my, like in the last bull market, I was into metaverse tokens. I did very well on metaverse tokens, and I donated a chunk of my portfolio to two of the meditation centers in Western Australia. I donated a chunk of crypto. I think it was worth like, I don't know, I think it was like 80 grand, or maybe it was 100 grand at the time. It's obviously nowhere near 100 grand at the moment, because there was some HEX in there. There was some HEX stakes. Now it's more like, I don't know, it's way less than that. Put it that way, it's way less. But I do believe it's gonna break that. And so that donation that I made to those meditation centers, they can do whatever they want with it. So they can maybe buy another meditation center with that. By the end of this bull market, they can do some upgrades to their meditation centers. They could start to do marketing, because it's all non-profit organizations. So maybe they could do marketing, like in the way that, you know, these Pulsechain funds are going. That's always been like the dream of what I'm going to be doing with the money. So I donated a lot of metaverse. I donated like all my metaverse tokens to them. Therefore, I'm very interested in this, because I'm helping like manage that portfolio as well. So the time to buy it, everybody was excited after it all ripped. So we can see, if we go back to here, I think let's just get some dates. So 26th of November. And if we have a look at these tokens, 26th of November. So these all started to rip around about the same time as we were getting to the top of PDI. So, or basically the top of Pulsechain, you could say. It was the top of the whole ecosystem. And then all these started to rip. These are so low liquidity. Look how much they've dipped. People took their profits, but look how many bargains there are now in all of them. This is the time to be looking at these tokens. Pick your favorite ecosystem. I mean, what I'm doing, you do you. I'm sticking with my favorite. Oh, look at this. Fuck yeah. That's exciting the shit out of me. So look at that. Look at that. Let's have a look. What, Render? I think Render was one of the craziest ones, and it did like a 43x or something from the bottom. Now look at it from where it is now. It's like, I mean, it's dropped a lot, but it's still like 15x to the top, right? So now's the time. Or maybe when you feel euphoric, use yourself as the guide. This is what I do. This is why I was also very clearly able to pick the I picked both of the tops for PDI because I'm really in sync with the chart and I'm really in sync with the community and I'm really in sync with Twitter. So I use myself as a guide. So when I'm feeling extreme euphoria and I'm seeing it everywhere, I know we're getting towards a top because I've studied markets and I've studied market dynamics. And what does Warren Buffett always say? It's an eternal principle with markets. You buy when everybody's, or you sell when everybody's greedy, and you buy when everybody's afraid. And so when everybody's greedy and euphoric and thinking it's going to keep going forever and they're going to get shitty at you for calling a top, that's when you know you're really close to a top. And I'm pretty sure I called this pretty much on the day. On the day, this one, because it almost got to the 1 cent and I knew 1 cent is a psychological level. And here as well, based on the fibs, based on my own feelings of euphoria and the scale of my portfolio, I was like, nah, we're getting towards a top. So what I would say, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do because this whole channel is about documenting my journey and using mindset. This is the Genesis mindset and how I'm using my mindset and overcoming myself to actually grow a portfolio to extremely ridiculous sizes. Once I start to feel that euphoria again, that's when I will probably be starting to rotate profits or maybe just trimming some profits into these things because these things have such thin liquidity. So now if I use render, so all I did here, some of these charts have such thin liquidity, they don't even show. So I've just picked like some of my favorites. And I know like Alluvium is supposed to be in here. Why is Alluvium not here? This is AI and Metaverse, and this is my Metaverse one. So yeah, I've got AI and I've got Metaverse. So I want to play in both those fields. So look at this. This only has, let's say you've got a big fat bag of PDI or a big fat bag of whatever, and you bought it for, I don't know, $1,000, and it's just done a 10x, and you're up to, I don't know, whatever that is. Obviously, that's dumb. So $1,000, 10x, you get 10 grand. You might clip 10%, and then you put you take out your initials and you start to put it into this, for example, like. I don't know. That's to me seeming like something that would be really, really clever thing to do because I do believe in the parity narrative. I do believe if HEX reaches parity, I do believe if this is the final piece of the puzzle where if these tokens start pumping, we've got this marketing thing that's going out. Let's say this, Milady's another one. Milady, Moon King's pumping the shit out of Milady as well. And the Crypto King's attention is on Milady. So there you go. That's one, certainly not to fade. But I'm sticking to Metaverse and AR because I just want to keep it simple in my mind. There's like, well, I don't know. I think there's like thousands of PRC20 copies. So I'm just going to stick to the things that I'm familiar with and the things that I want to continue to like expand in my consciousness, which is AI and Metaverse. I want to stay in tune with those trends of the world regardless. I actually need to do another AI episode. It's been a few months actually. But yeah. So again, if all that marketing's going out, if all these big influencers start to come across, Ivan on Tech comes across and he realizes, hang on a minute, I've actually got all these PRC20 copies over here. And I had Render, for example, and I had all these Render tokens. And look how much is pumped on this side. I've got like $10,000 worth of Render. And on Ethereum, I've got $100,000 of Render. But I'm seeing an opportunity here. I'm seeing that we're flipping Solana. We're just about to flip Solana. Why don't I bridge some of those assets across? Like there's so many things. Like Richard is he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Not only is he the GOAT, not only is he the GOAT, like, man, like the synchronicities. The synchronicities is too much. Synchronicities is like, for me, the synchronicities is like a very personal, it's some kind of personal thing, but it's the most objective thing, in my opinion. It's the most objective fact of them all. Synchronicities is kind of like, if I could draw like, let's just say we draw time like this. I mean, that's supposed to be an infinity. And this is the present moment, this is the past, and this is the future. Synchronicity, I mean, if we imagine that your consciousness is tied to the infinity, which I believe that it is, your consciousness is, we think that we live as individual existences, but we're actually just the whole is the part and the part is the whole. So your consciousness, if you break out of your little bubble world, is connected to the consciousness of God, universe, Buddha, Allah. So therefore, all it is, in the past, things are always going to be what they were. In the future, things are always going to be what they're going to be. The future is always the future. But in the fourth dimension, the past, the present, and the future doesn't exist. It's all just the eternal now. So things in the future are always going to be that way. So that also has some kind of like wave-like property that projects into the present moment. So basically all synchronicities is your mind connecting with that consciousness, connecting with a future, an inevitable future. And it's like, oh, there's this coincidence. And Carl Jung documented this. Like, just go look at Synchronicities with Carl Jung. It's very, very well documented. Go look at, what's his name? Dr. Joe Dispenza. For me, like, synchronicities are the most factual facts of them all. I get so many synchronicities with Pulsechain, so many. I'm just like, I can't not be bullish. But those are things that's just like, I just sound like some crazy whack job if I tell you about my synchronicities, because it's like the synchronicities that I have are personal to me, but it's connecting to the objective reality. That's the thing. That's why it's like the most objective fact that I feel out of all of these things, out of all the evidence that I presented, out of all the math. Nothing is more profound than the synchronicities. So yeah, that's like the final piece of the puzzle. So all I'm going to be doing is, in this little upcoming bull trend, I'm going to pay attention to my favorite metaverse tokens, and I'm going to make sure that I position myself, and then I can become the custodian of those tokens as well. I can start building out a liquidity with those tokens. So again, don't forget about all of these. I mean, look at Render. Let's just do Render just as one example, because I've been looking at Render. This is where the TVL continues to expand out as well, right? So as more and more people start locking their tokens in liquidity. So the final piece of the puzzle, again, if you guys are enjoying this, I would, just like it, share it out on Twitter, comment on it on Twitter, leave comments and likes on the YouTube at the end. Everything's really appreciated. Let's have a look at this. So now this is Render. So, I mean, what I'm showing here now is once people also start, okay, all right. So Render's got quite a few. So Render's got 50 liquidity pools. Wow. So I mean, look at all these obscure little tokens that, I mean, they're tiny little liquidity pools. But let's say someone comes along and ends up being a whale with Render, and then they have like a lot of PDI and a lot of, I don't know, PTGC and a lot of whatever, HOA, whatever. They can start bonding their liquidity to this. And they know by now that, hey, if I bond this token that I now own a huge chunk of with the rest, if I bond this token with all these other tokens that are getting bought up, then it's going to drag this token up as well. That's the thing. No one even needs to buy the crap out of it. A whale just needs to come along, just gorge up a huge chunk of the supply. I mean, let's have a look at what the supply, just Render, for example. Let's just dig into Render. So, and Render's a great one as well, because it's in like a top, I mean, it's in the top 100, which means that there's going to be a lot of, I mean, it's still getting a lot of attention now within this bull market. So we're going to load up Render here. I just want to see. So Render token, let's just see. So there's 531 million Render tokens. How much is in liquidity? There's 366,000 in liquidity. So, yeah, a very small percentage is in liquidity. What's that? That ends up being like, yeah, really a minuscule portion is in liquidity. So, but that's not necessarily bearish if you become the custodian of it. This is the thing. So let's say, oh man, all these lessons are really just starting to click in my mind, man. Far out. Wow. So let's say I want to be, let's say this Pulsechain, 254,000 is in the Pulsechain pool. Let's say I've just made 100K in my Pulsechain, and you know what? I want to be a Render whale. I might come along to here, buy up all of this supply, and then what's that going to do? It's going to pull up the price of Render. Then I'm going to own all that Render. Then I can start, I can put that Render back into liquidity. I can start bonding it with my Pulsex and my INC or whatever other tokens that I love, HOA, Atropa. I'll start bonding it with those, putting it in liquidity. So still there's going to be the same amount in liquidity, but the price of the token is going to continue to grow. So as the price of the token continues to grow, as the marketing that we have continues to expand out, it doesn't matter if people from Ethereum come and dump their tokens. Let's just say they have, I mean, this is what I was showing with Harambe, for example. So go back to some of my Harambe videos. I need to relook at Harambe again, but this is what I was showing with Harambe. So they just need to come in. Let's say the marketing's whatever. Someone comes along and he's a whale. He's got 50 million render. Come and dump it into our liquidity pool. So he dumps his liquidity into here. He doesn't care about the slippage. He's just like, oh, cool. I've just made like a free 20K. I'm just going to dump it all into here. It's going to wreck the price, but it's still liquidity bonded with everything. So it's still going to continue to go up with or without buyers anyway. But now more of those tokens are now in liquidity. So more of those tokens are now in liquidity. So instead of 300,000 in liquidity, now there's 50 million, 300,000 in liquidity. And then along comes another few whales, and then they end up dumping. Oh, I got to get some circles, get these ugly little, because I want to show the growth here. So they dump. So this is the pools here, then they dump. So let's just say 300,000 here. Then they dump the crap out of it. And then at the end, in liquidity, we have, let's say 50 million, because we had all these whales that came across and noticed that they had tokens. And I initially thought, well, isn't that bearish that all these guys are just going to come and dump the tokens? But it's not, because it's putting it in liquidity. And then it gets dumped down. And then don't forget, there's people, if Pulsechain has continued to go up in this rate as well, and whoever this custodian of render is, if I end up buying like 300,000 of that render, you best believe that if it gets down to these prices, I'm going to scoop up all those 50 million tokens as much as I can and scoop them up. So buy them up for myself, put them in liquidity, whatever, or they're already going to be in liquidity, but maybe I could expand the web out. Then more whales come along here, more whales enter the market here. So here's our whales. Here's our whales. Got to do pretty drawings for the win. So now we've got bigger whales coming in. Maybe the dump is bigger, but now we have 100 million. So a fifth of the tokens are in liquidity. So you just continue this process. This process continues, and it's liquidity bonded. So it's just going to keep going up. Whether or not this all happens within this bull run, I don't know. This could be a really long-term thing. But this is a potential for all the PRC20s. That's the thing. And let's just say one of those whales comes along and says, hey, I see a liquidity providing opportunity here. I'm chain agnostic. I don't care what the chain is. As long as I'm making fees, I'm going to bridge over my assets and I'm actually going to provide liquidity. So I'm not going to dump it down. So other people are going to come in, dump it down, but the other guy is actually just going to provide liquidity. So he's going to bridge his assets across and he's just going to provide liquidity. So now we have 100. Now instead of 100 million tokens, we've got, what do we have? 50, 100. Now we've got 200 million. So now 50% of those tokens that aren't in liquidity, let's say 250 million. So there's 530 million still of holders that maybe we'll never find out. Maybe they'll just come and dump. Who really cares? Now it's starting to click into my mind that this is something that I see happening. This is something that I see happening. So this kind of story unfolding. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think of that, but that's with not all the PRC20s, of course. But if you look at, say, if you want to look at, if I was looking at what kind of ecosystem that I would want to get involved in, then I would look, for example, at like the top 100 and what's not doing so great on Pulsechain. So, for example, I think we've got Uniswap here. We've got Peppy. So Peppy's doing awesome. Near Protocol. I don't know if Aptos is an ERC20. I think there's an ICP, but it's like a wrapped ICP because I think it's its own blockchain. Aave, that's doing amazing. Yeah, I mean, the opportunities are endless. the opportunities are really endless. So there's obviously like tens of thousands of PRC20s, or I don't know how many there are. I just pulled that number out of my ass, but there's like thousands and thousands. There's lots. So they're not all going to reach parity, but the strong ones, I think there's a big, big possibility that they can reach parity, especially if HEX leads the way and shows that parity can be achieved. Let's just say Maria now starts to deploy the Atropa ecosystem to bring render to parity. So he does something similar that he's done with, he just keeps expanding out the web, and he takes an interest in render. And I'm pretty sure like Maria's got some, like Zen, for example, I think was pegged heavily to the Atropa ecosystem at the start. So all I see is potential. Put it that way. All I see is potential. All I see is upside. Whether or not it's going to be all of them is a different story. But I think it's just about seeing it naturally grow. It's not, I think a lot of people's minds are very like they just want to see that tomorrow, and they want like, how exactly is it going to get there? The way that I see it is I just see things as like nature's flow. So for me, it's like I can see these sequences of events occurring based on the logic of humanity, the logic of the human mind, and it creates an inevitability in my mind. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this stream. I'll just finish up with some of these comments. Let's be real. Atropa is the best. Honestly, I agree. I actually totally agree. And so not really, I'm astounded at the lack of like influencers that are talking about it. I'm really astounded. Like, yeah, I think it's because it's so hard to understand. That's the problem. So like, I think, if you go to PTGC, there'll be a lot of guys talking about PTGC. PTGC is a beautiful thing. It's an amazing thing, but it's also a lot easier to understand than the Atropa ecosystem. So I think that's why like people don't really, people just think Atropa ecosystem. They just think of Atropa and they think of like, oh, there's all these tokens that I don't know the names of. But I think, Maria's done that very deliberately, but also the names of things is also very deliberate. If you know, or if you understand why he's named something, there could be opportunity there. So I've been building a Liquid on Pulsechain way before I even knew who the Atropa dev was. I actually discovered Sunny on-chain before Maria. Maria is a genius and put the huge amounts of money where his mouth is. But anyone who builds anything legit, it helps. I completely agree. So again, if you see what Maria has done with Ethereum HEX, and to be perfectly honest, if Ethereum HEX goes one-to-one, a lot of that is going to be because of Maria. Maria purchased like 100 million Ethereum HEX when the price tanked. Like, Maria is making a concerted effort to get it to parity because he wants to see this chain succeed, because it's in his interest to see it succeed. So when you understand, like, also humans just have self-interest, it's like, well, I can see him doing all this work. His like company that he's building, this Atropa ecosystem, when PDI was 3 cents, it was worth $1 billion. He's like the total value of his assets. So, when it gets to, I guess do the math. If it's worth $1 billion at 3 cents, once PDI gets to $1, it's worth like tens of billions. So then he can just start using that power to start pumping the shit out of these PRC20s as well. If he can use that power to help EHEX reach parity, he can also use that same power for all of this. So, like, there's no scenario that I see where we fail. I don't actually see that we fail. I can't see us actually failing. Honestly speaking, I cannot actually see us failing. I think if something goes really wrong with the SEC, I think a lot of people will be afraid, but still over time, I can't see us failing because of the superior math, superior logic here. People are going to, even if it takes more than one bull cycle, people are going to eventually open their mind up to the mathematics that is on Pulsechain, which is this Tensor mathematics, which everything is, this Tensor mathematic. It's not linear mathematics like Solana and every other blockchain where one thing goes up and one thing goes down. It's Tensor mathematics where everything gets pulled up together. Hart's law. What's up, Conspiracy Crypto? As we said, my lady, east or west? I was born on the west side and now I'm living on the east side. HEX down under. You drank Aya yet? It's intense but beautiful. Aya as in ayahuasca? I have not. I have not. I have not done anything like that actually. So all of my enlightened experiences have come from no drugs and just first no meditation, and then like I had like just weeks of pure bliss. That's why it's like you take these drugs and like, okay, you'll get like I think the drugs are great, the mushrooms and whatever, like it'll open DMT, it will open people's minds up to like, oh, there's something else out there, and it will make them want to search more for that. But there's such fleeting moments. Imagine, I don't know what it's like if you get some sort of blissful or enlightened feeling, but imagine that feeling of bliss, pure bliss for weeks. I'm talking like 2 to 3 weeks. I was in this state of pure bliss where everything that my mind thought, if I'm talking synchronicities, everything that my mind thought would just be manifesting directly in front of me. I'd be thinking like, holy shit, like this is what Jesus experienced. Like Jesus is in my heart. The first enlightened experience I had was around Easter. It was during Easter, and the second one was during Ramadan. So the first one during Easter, and I'd walk around the corner and I'm thinking, wow, Jesus is like in my heart. I can feel it. I can see Jesus. I can really feel him here. I'd walk around the heart and there's like a big sign there and it says Jesus is within you. And I'm just like, fuck, you know, like all these synchronicities that were happening, like nobody, it doesn't matter what anyone's, it's like such a lonely thing because nobody else will really believe you. People just think that you're crazy, but the profoundness of it, the bliss to know that you can live in heaven now. That was heaven. That's the state of heaven that the Bible, the Buddhist sutras talks about Nirvana, the Quran talks about paradise. That was the state. And nobody can tell me otherwise. I knew God. It was like God is within. God is everything. This is if Jesus is within, then I also have that consciousness of Jesus, of Christ, which can see that everything is God. So I could also really understand Jesus because this false self didn't exist. So yeah, I don't get into the drug stuff because it's like it's just fleeting. But yeah, through meditation, I've been able to achieve those states of like synchronicity and like synchronicities now, like that state of like intense bliss, which happened before meditation. When they lasted, the first time lasted 2 weeks. It just came out of nowhere. And then I fell back into like a massive depression because I was always negative and depressed and really couldn't come out of my mind. It was like no matter what I did, I was just always falling back into the same habit loops. And I guess the first time was when I just had this big change in my life where my old self, my past self, like disappeared because I was no longer that person anymore, but it disappeared in such a profound way that the whole concept of the self, which is just an illusion, completely disappeared. So it just completely disappeared. And I was like, holy shit, I don't even like the idea of Stephen is like non-existent. It's just God. It's just the universe. My third eye opened up, my heart, like all the chakras opened up. I had this Kundalini energy a Kundalini rush up the spine. It was like the most profound thing. Then I went into a massive depression again because it only lasted 2 weeks because that false self, which was it's like a demon. It's a demon, came back into my thing, and I was like, damn it, I'm back in my mind. I'm back into negative. I can't do anything. And then one day I'm like looking, researching how. Like I spent years trying to find how to get back to this state of mind. And then one day I just gave up. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I give up. And then it happened again, this time for 3 weeks. But trying to hold on to it is what makes it disappear because trying to hold on to it creates a self. So as I'm trying to hold on to it, oh, can this last? Will it last? Like I'm talking synchronicities like you're omniscient and omnipotent. It's the consciousness of God. So as lame as this sounds, like just quizzes, like, you know, we used to do these Sunday quizzes with my ex-wife and her family, and I'd never get any answers. Like I don't really know it, but in this quiz, we got like 10 out of 10, and I got 9 of the 10 answers. And it was just like they'd ask a question, I'm just like, ping, the answer just came from the universe. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it from within my mind world. It was almost just like, I can't explain it, but it was almost just like, I just need to ask the universe. I just need to ask God the answer. And it just came, and it just comes, and it's like, that's the answer. And it was like, there was so many things. I should write a book about this because it was actually, I did write a book at that time. It was like this pure stream of consciousness. I wrote like an 80-page book in like 4 days, but I haven't like published it or anything because it was just, yeah, I just, yeah, like I said, I became very depressed after that. So Anyway, long story short, meditation then has been the thing that's gotten me back to that state of consciousness where I'm like getting closer and closer to that. Like instead of it being like a sudden thing like those first two times, now it's more just like the gradual rising of the sun. I'm getting there more and more and more and more and more over time. And so like synchronicities, coincidences, these states of bliss is just like, it's becoming almost like mundane. Like in the past, I'd be like, oh, this synchronicity, like that's so crazy. I can't believe this happened. Now it's just like, it's normal. I was listening to the telepathy tapes the other day, and they were talking about these autistic kids. I've got a whole theory around autism and ADD. It's just, and I mean, even trans, and like just every like, even all humans are possessed, but they're just possessed by different things. I won't go into that now, but in any case, this telepathy and the kid, they did all these experiments where this kid with her mum, that the mum, like the kid was reading the mum's mind. The kid's autistic, can't talk, but she's reading her mum's mind. And they did all these tests. And there's so many cases like this, but I'll just use this first case. And they'd end up like people took interest, like Harvard scientists took interest. And then they basically like created the experiment. They said, okay, if we're going to do this, you have to come here. We have to set up the whole thing. We have to like make sure it's all done under our way of doing it. So there can be no doubt whatsoever. And this kid was like just 100% getting all the answers correct because the consciousness was like tied to the mother. And in the past, it'd be like, wow, telepathy, that's so crazy. That's unbelievable. How does this actually happen? It'll be this mystery. But in the way that I understand reality now, it's just like, yeah, that slots perfectly into my way of understanding reality. Autism, yeah, that slots perfectly into my way of understanding reality. Like ghosts and demons, yeah, that slots perfectly. And there's no contradictions in my mind anymore. Everything just slots perfectly into this way of understanding reality. That's why it's like there's so many words and so many books, and I find it frustrating. I'm sick of the words. I'm sick of the books. Like people show me a lot of things, and I like looking at those things. But now I'm just like, I want to become it. I want to become it. That's why I do this meditation method, which in my opinion is the one and only method that can truly get you there and make you stay there, because it's about eliminating the false self. That's the key. So then you become, all that's left is just the true self, which is God. So anyway, big, huge rant there. Thanks for the ayahuasca question, Hex Down Under. I assume you've done ayahuasca. I'd be curious to know what your experience with it was. Maybe we can I would love to do a stream about this sort of stuff as well, to be honest, one day, because I'm sure that there's lots of people within this community that are like that. So Render is a sick LP. So, but yeah, that's just one example, bro. So that's one example. Like I know, for example, alluvium is another one. And if you look at alluvium, for example, you look at damn it, I did a stream on it. There's like a website which has all the assets that were donated or sacrificed, and alluvium is in like the top 20. So this makes me very bullish for alluvium. And coincidentally, I also follow, and he follows me. I was like shocked. I think he's pretty much like the person with the most followers that follows me. He's an alluvium whale. I was like, why does this guy follow me? I don't even understand. I barely talk about alluvium, but I just look at that like, okay, this is like the piece of the puzzle. And like somewhere in the future, I'll end up being able to show him, hey man, you've got these tokens, these alluvium tokens forked here. He's got 100,000 followers, over 100,000 followers, DJ Sam Withers, 100,000 followers. And he's an alluvium, I suspect a whale, but he has a big audience for alluvium. So I've got this connection with alluvium. I've spoken to him about it with Pulsechain. He's like, nah, because this and that. You know, he thinks it's a scam. He doesn't want to vibe with it. But, you know, as the chain continues to grow, as the results come, like these are the pieces of the puzzles where it's just like, hey, man, like you might think it's a scam. That's fine. But just come over here and at least grab your like PRC20 alluvium. You've got like $20,000 worth of alluvium here. Just come and sell it into these liquidity pools. That's what we want. We want them to come and sell it into our liquidity pools. I don't care if you come and sell it into the liquidity pools. We want as many of these tokens in liquidity as possible. This lesson has really just clicked in my mind just tonight, just from talking about it. It's also no coincidence that it's clicked in my mind because I've been meditating a hell of a lot. This is how it happens. This is how it happens. I'll have downs. Like it's my journey of like eliminating the self is exactly like these charts. I have these big ups, then it comes down for a while, and it's like, okay, yeah, I have like a down state, but it's like a higher low, and then again higher high, and then a higher low, and then a higher high, and then hopefully it will get somewhere where it pegs, where I get to heaven, and it just pegs to heaven, and I just stay there, and I just maintain some kind of equanimity. That's what I'm hoping the objective is anyway. So anyway, what a fun stream this was. It's been a long one. It's not too long actually compared to other ones, but thanks everyone for contributing. Thanks for sticking around. There's 256 people here. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. I hope everybody's feeling more optimistic, because I really want to share my optimism of Pulsechain, because I just don't see a reality where we lose. I really don't. And I honestly, I mean, even going back to the whole synchronicities thing, I don't see a reality where Richard loses. It's just, even Richard in one of his tweets mentioned like there seems to be higher forces at work. He said that in his tweet. And I saw him in the highest of stakes when he created HEX. He had an idea for HEX, was one thing, and it turned into something completely different. And how? He's going with the flow. He's taking cues from the universe. He's in this flow state. He's in this state of like synchronicities coming. So he's building something that the future is desiring. So the future wants to be fulfilled. So if I go back to this my little drawing here, it's supposed to be a little. Actually, you know what? I'll use circles instead. But it's you can't really use circles, but it's because it's supposed to be like it should be a figure eight, because it's like it's. But anyway, if you go back to this, he's creating HEX here, but the perfect form of HEX is here. I believe it would have been exactly the same as what he's done with Pulsechain. The way that he spoke about HEX, he has that mind. So he's in tune. He knows a shitload. He's like the ultimate cipher. He's like one of the last standing cypherpunks. He's like he's been through it all. He's been through the whole journey of cryptocurrency, and his mind has stayed fluid and adapted to the world. This is the mind of success. So he would have done the same with Pulsechain, the way that he would have created and invented Pulsechain. So that's why it's like higher forces would have been helping him also to come up with Pulsechain. Just the concept of the world's largest free airdrop is like so effing brilliant. Like it's been forgotten, and I want to bring this narrative back, but it's like so bullish. And so when he has these higher forces that are on his side, we're seeing all the cracks show with all this Interpol FUD, the SEC now throwing the book at Elon Musk in their dying grasp. But there's all these cracks showing up. I saw a thing from Joe Biden saying like, be careful of Elon Musk's social media. It's like all these guys are just like, all the bullshitters are bullshitting each other, and the whole world is just full of falseness, and all the cracks are starting to show. And now it's the age of truth. It's the age where people can become one with the truth. So the truth has to reign supreme. So the light is just penetrating the darkness. So the dark clouds of humanity is lifting. And so it's our time. When he made that tweet and he said, nothing stops an idea whose time has come, it's like, you effing goat. He's got the conviction. He's got the confidence. He's bringing it. He's willing it into reality as he puts out those tweets as well. This is the thing. Energy, like, you go and look at things like all the pro manifestors. You really have to feel it. You have to believe it. You have to know it. You have to. I mean, Jesus spoke about it as well with the mustard seed. He's doing exactly the same thing. He's doing exactly the same principle as Jesus talks about with the mustard seed. That's faith. He's doing the same thing. When he puts out that tweet and says like, I feel bulletproof. That resonates throughout the whole community. That energy that he's putting out into the universe, out into the world, resonates throughout the whole community, and it lifts up all of our spirits. That also lifts up my spirits, but my spirits are also like, me being here in Pulsechain is also like, without Richard Hart, just the fact that I'm here in Pulsechain and the goals that I'm trying to achieve for the universe, for God, it's like, well, God is going to make things happen because my goals are righteous. I'm not here trying to extract and do anything selfish. I'm trying to create a better world. I'm trying to use the money to create a better world. And I keep thinking it, I'm feeling it. And it's like, well, because I'm here, then I believe inevitably Pulsechain succeeds just by virtue of myself being here. So when Richard puts this stuff out that's like mega bullish, it only just makes me also more and more bullish. The energy of the whole ecosystem gets more and more bullish. So it's like we are collectively manifesting that reality. We're collectively manifesting that reality. As you can do it individually, you can also do it collectively. That's why for me it's like there's not a way that we lose. That's why even to talk about it, even to think about losing, even to like focus on it, it's gonna put the energy towards that darkness. So don't even think about it. Don't even give it attention. It's just like, yeah, as the mustard seed, what is the mustard seed quote? Because we've got to go to the GOAT. Jesus's quote about the mustard seed. Because as we continue to keep our energy and our consciousness on that, Jesus, it's such a weird dynamic because I'm not a Christian, but I love Jesus. I love Jesus. I don't think anyone can really ever understand the depth of love that I have for Jesus because of those enlightenments that I had prior to meditation. So in Matthew 17, 20, 21, he says, "For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed," hang on, we just want to see what Jesus said. Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." That's the same principle as manifestation. That's the same principle as just saying, we're going to win. That's why Richard says we're team win. That's why I sign off on a lot of my tweets with, we are team win, or we're going to win. I stamp it with an inevitability at the end because I want to put that energy out into the world. So a lot of people will look at it as hopium, but I see it as faith, and I see faith as a very logical thing that it's just as valid as math and logic. But rationalists and rational minds, they won't be able to see that. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks very much, Jay. Thanks very much, BP. Thank you, Johnny Poles. Thanks for sharing. It was an awesome experience. Man, my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. So peace out, Pedro. Peace out, everybody. Take care. Take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend.